Okay, so you've sent over this massive stack of stuff about AI and the future of work, and wow, there's a lot to unpack here. We've got articles, reports, even like a whole proposal for an AI talent development program. It seems like you're really trying to get ahead of this whole thing, huh?
Well, it's definitely the tidal wave everyone keeps talking about, and for good reason. What's interesting, though, is how this isn't some like far-off future anymore. It's like it's happening now. The demand for these AI skills, it's exploding.
Yeah, one article mentioned a 323% surge in hiring for AI jobs just in the past 8 years, which is kind of mind blowing, but it sounds like it's not just about being like a coding whiz, right?
Exactly. While those technical skills are definitely important, what we're seeing is this growing need for AI literacy, kind of across the board. It's almost like even if you aren't the one building the algorithms, you need to understand how they work, their potential impact, how to use them in your field.
Hmm.
It's like needing to be fluent in this whole new way of thinking.
So, like, give me an example. What's like a core concept in this AI literacy that everyone should kind of get their heads around?
Okay, well, one fundamental concept is understanding the difference between supervised and unsupervised learning. So in supervised learning, we're feeding the AI labeled data, like images of cats and dogs that are already labeled with their names so it can learn to identify them. But with unsupervised learning, it's more about letting the AI find patterns and relationships in the data on its own without those labels.
Okay, so it's like the difference between like giving someone a dictionary and letting them try to figure out the language just by listening to conversations. That's actually a really helpful way to think about it.
Exactly, and understanding those basic concepts can help anyone really make sense of how AI is being used in all these different industries, from healthcare to finance to even marketing.
It makes you realize that this isn't just a tech industry trend anymore. You mentioned healthcare, but I'm also seeing articles here about AI's impact on government agencies, even national security.
Absolutely. The National Security Commission on AI, for example, has been really vocal about how crucial AI talent is for national security. They're dealing with massive amounts of data complex scenarios where AI can analyze information and identify potential threats, much faster than humans can.
That makes sense, but that also means they need people who understand not just the technology itself, but also like the implications, right? Like, how do you make sure that these AI systems are actually making the right decisions, especially in those really high stakes situations?
It's a huge responsibility, right? And it really highlights why this whole AI literacy thing, it's not just about the technical skills, it's also about critical thinking and ethical reasoning,
Mm.
being able to ask those tough questions about potential biases and unintended consequences.
It sounds like we need like a whole new generation of thinkers, people who can bridge the gap between technology and like humanity. So how do we actually get there? You included this really interesting proposal for an AI talent development program in the materials you sent. It feels like a roadmap for how to actually build this AI powered workforce.
It is. And one of the things that really stood out to me was its emphasis on hands-on learning, moving away from just theoretical knowledge to practical application.
Yeah.
So like apprenticeships, real world projects, actually building AI solutions instead of just reading about them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's one thing to understand what an algorithm is in theory, but it's another thing entirely to actually build one and to see how it works in the real world to troubleshoot it when things go wrong.
Absolutely. And that kind of practical experience is like gold for employers right now.
Hmm.
Think about companies like Spotify. They're using AI to personalize music recommendations for millions of users.
Yeah.
They need people who can like hit the ground running, who understand how to actually apply these really complex algorithms to real world challenges.
So it's not enough to just have like AI on your resume. You have
Mhm.
to be able to show that you can actually use it to create something to solve a problem to make a real impact.
Exactly. And that kind of leads us to another important point that the proposal highlighted this idea of continuous learning. The
Hmm.
field of AI is constantly evolving. There are new breakthroughs happening all the time. This isn't a learn it once and you're done kind of field.
It's more like learning how to learn, right?
Yeah.
You're being adaptable, picking up new skills, quickly being curious about what's next. I remember one of the World Economic Forum reports that you sent mentioned that skills agility is going to be like essential for anyone who wants to thrive in this AI-driven future.
Absolutely. It's not just about what you know today, it's about how quickly you can learn tomorrow. And that requires a certain mindset, a willingness to embrace change and to see it as an opportunity for growth rather than some kind of threat.
It reminds me of
It reminds me of that saying, like, the only constant is change. It feels like that it's going to be especially true in the world of AI. It really is. And, as this technology just keeps getting more and more powerful, it's not even just about adapting our skills anymore. It's about adapting our whole way of thinking, like our approach to problem solving.
Mhm.
That's where this whole idea of design thinking comes in that you mentioned earlier.
Yes. Several of the articles that you sent mentioned design thinking, but I have to admit, I'm not 100% sure I get what that means, like in the context of AI. Can you break that down for me?
Of course. So design thinking is basically a human-centered approach to problem solving. It's
Mhm.
about starting with the needs of the user, understanding their pain points, and then rapidly prototyping and testing solutions. So in the context of AI, it's about making sure that the technology we're developing is actually useful, usable and aligned with human values.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about building these like cool algorithms. It's about building algorithms that solve real problems for real people
Right.
and like making sure that they don't create a whole bunch of new problems in the process.
Right. Exactly. And that actually brings us to another really important point, which is that this whole education thing, it's not just happening in companies, it's also happening in universities. Some institutions are really stepping up to the plate here.
Hmm.
Like you shared that case study about Kaleidos University of Applied Sciences in Zurich. They have actually created a whole AI task force to figure out how to best integrate AI into their curriculum and to address the broader societal impacts of this technology. So they're getting students thinking about these issues early on, which is huge.
It's like we need to kind of bake this awareness of AI's potential, but also its pitfalls into the very fabric of education.
Precisely. And that's why initiatives like that AI talent development program we were talking about earlier are so encouraging. It's not just about like churning out coders. It's about cultivating this whole new generation of thinkers who are both technically skilled, but also ethically aware.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here. The skills gap, the need for continuous learning, the importance of ethical reasoning, embracing that design thinking mindset. For our listener who's at home right now and maybe thinking, whoa, this is a lot of information. Where do I even start? What's like the key takeaway here?
The key is to be proactive. Don't wait for AI to come in and like totally disrupt your industry. Embrace it as an opportunity for growth. Start exploring now. Take an online course, read some articles and books, attend some webinars, connect with people in the field. There are so many resources out there. The most important thing is just to start.
This has been a really insightful deep dive. We've seen how AI is transforming the world of work, explored the skills and values needed to thrive in this new landscape, and looked at some really cool examples of companies and institutions that are paving the way.
It's an exciting time to be alive, and the people who are willing to adapt, learn, and grow are the ones who are going to shape the future.
And on that note, here's something I want you to think about. If you could design your dream job in an AI-powered world, what would it look like? What problems would you solve? What impact would you have? Think about it, and let's keep this conversation going.